So our last segment of the day is a media review, or as we call it,
the ghastly paraphernalia of our beneficial trade.
Where we take a piece of media, whether it be live action, animated, print, art, or sound. We're going to identify it and its context in the history of the character, provide analysis and criticize, and we're going to advise you on consuming it. Meaning, do you see it in theaters? Do you buy it on DVD? Do you buy it on Blu-ray? Do you stay away from it? Only watch it on streaming? We're going to inform you of that today so you have a better opportunity to make an informed purchasing decision. And the media we're reviewing today is the 1931 version of Dracula starring Bela Lugosi. It's the film that most people know. It's the image that is most associated with Dracula. And we're going to point out its strengths and weaknesses as we go on today. It was formed in 1931, and it was based off the John Balderston play. Why? Because the novel was very, very large, and Universal was having a bit of a financial struggle at the time. Carl Laemmle was the producer, and it was his son, actually, who wanted to bring horror to the screen, so they obviously couldn't adapt this novel, unfortunately, because I think Bela Lugosi would have done a heck of a job. The film itself is a little dated. The cinematography sometimes can be stiff, but when it comes to what horror films are, this is the very first horror film in sound. It's directed by Todd Browning and shot by Karl Freund. Freund himself would later direct The Mummy in 1932. And checking out IMDb, we've got the writing credits as Louis Bromfield, Todd Browning, Max Cohen, Dudley Murphy, and Louis Stevenson. Garrett Fort with the play script, taking the adaptation from Hamilton Dean and John L. Balderston. So what we have is a very abridged version of the story. We have Renfield playing a bit of Jonathan Harker. We've got Lucy and Mina playing somewhat smaller roles. We have Dr. Seward, who's a bit out of context but still there. We do not have Quincy P. Morris. We don't have Arthur Homewood, and many of the cast who make this such a big success. It's abridged. But it's very, very important. It's a piece of our film history. Bela Lugosi makes this thing pop. I'm not sure if there's another role that one actor has made so iconic. Because whenever someone knows Dracula, they identify it with Lugosi. Unfortunately, they don't know Stoker's work, but if you listen to this podcast, we're going to fix that. They don't know Stoker's work. But they know Bela Lugosi. They know the cape. He was so identified with this role that he was actually buried in his Dracula cloak. Other big-time performances in the movie include Dwight Frye as Renfield and Edward Van Sloan as Dr. Van Helsing. Should you watch this film? Absolutely. But honestly, there's really only one way to experience it. And don't let Universal fool you on multiple releases. We're about to give it to you right now. The Universal Classic Monsters, the Essential Collection, was a package released by Universal in 2012. It carried the English and Spanish versions of Dracula 1931, Frankenstein 31 and The Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy in 32, The Invisible Man, Phantom of the Opera in 1943, The Wolf Man and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. But honestly, the best example of film restoration and the loving detail given to the silver screen and its power and its transcendence and its lasting value is given to Dracula 31. What they've done with the sound is amazing. There was a constant hum that was present through the whole soundtrack, and it's now been removed. Every image has been cleaned up while not taking away from the director's original intent. This thing is a little pricey at $83.84, and you may be tempted to buy it on its own or via another package, but don't do it. This is the one to get. If you want to wait a little bit to buy it, go ahead, but go ahead and buy it in the collection. Universal Classic Monsters, the Essential Collection. Right now at Amazon, I see it at $83.84. You can possibly pick that up cheaper on eBay or from a seller at Amazon, but it's truly amazing. It's 8 discs long, and on Dracula, the first disc itself, you get a few documentaries. It's very good. The Road to Dracula, which was actually released in 2004, I believe, with that silly movie Van Helsing. Lugosi the Dark Prince, which focuses in on the actor himself. The Restoration of Dracula, which actually I believe is on YouTube by Universal, which I suggest you all watch. archives, the alternate score by Philip Glass, commentaries by David Scull, a film historian, galleries, and so much more. There's tons of value in this thing, even if it's a little pricey, but it's astounding. It's in full 1080p, and take advantage of it. And Universal's really done a great job, and this is probably the best that I've seen in film restoration.